understand this and brutalize the innocent street children. Now here we are. You said you map out and say, okay, this community is ripe for the empowerment, and someone may be interested to know where you particular, as of now, which communities are you working with?
Yeah, there are quite many communities that we are working with, and of course, the thing is, these children come from different places.
Sure.
Some of them come from Mayuge, from Iganga, from Mombale, from Kampala, from Kamuli. So many communities. That's where they come from. And our social workers, what they do visits to all those places, and they make assessments, assessments of the vulnerability of these families. So when they have identified these families that really need to benefit from this program, what they do is they invite them for a training, and that training is conducted from our site, our head office that is in Amlesa. So they come and they are trained from there. But not every family benefits from this family empowerment program, because some of them, when the social workers do assessments, they find that the families are well off and they don't need to be empowered. So through the assessments from the social workers, we are able to know that yes, this family is really in need. Let us empower this family to be able to support this child, so that this child doesn't end up on the streets, so that even this very family earns some money to be able to either pay school fees for this child, to be able to buy food at home. So those are the families. We want to improve on that well-being, that status, to kind of improve. Yeah, so those are the families that we work with. So these children come from various places all over the country. Yeah. So for them to benefit from this program, the social workers that we work with, they do those assessments. Then from there, we are able to know that yes, this is the family that needs to be empowered.
Okay, well, that's so interesting. Before we go to how you're working with parents, especially single parents, I have a basic question that I should ask you, lady and gentleman, to respond to me. Where do street children come from?
That's so interesting. Street children come from homes.
Because we are seeing the number growing every day.
Street children come from homes. That's the answer I can give basically. Because there is no heaven, no desert where they come from. They also come from homes. Okay. But due to various challenges, or maybe...
I wanted you to take us to some of the causes that push these kids, onto streets. So a listener was asking, what are those challenges that force the street children on streets?
Like I said before, different families have different challenges.
Sure.
But the major thing is maybe poverty. Because some of these parents, when they don't have what to do, they don't have work, they end up neglecting their children. They end up becoming so harsh. They end up becoming so violent. Sometimes maybe divorce comes in, and maybe a parent becomes a single parent. For instance, we are working with single mothers. The mother is so overwhelmed. She has very many children. The husband abandoned her with the children. And she has nothing to do. She has no time for parenting these children, because she's chasing money to feed them, to parent, to take them to hospital, to pay their school fees, and so many other things. So you find that these children will end up just to the streets because the mother is actually not there. We had an incident a few days back where a single mother left the children in the house and told them to sleep as she goes to work. She works at night. Shortly before she left, the child also left the house, left the young ones in the house, and went to the streets of Jinja, and she was raped. So it is because now this mother has no time to take care of these children. They need to eat, they need to feed, they need to dress, and so many needs in the family. So she leaves them thinking they are safe, not knowing this one is also chasing other things. Because there is no proper parenting like any other children in the families. So the major thing is parenting, poor parenting, poverty issues, no time for children, maybe no food. It is so important. A child will run away from home because there is no food. We only eat once, or we take porridge and it is too much for me, I can't handle. So my friend told me there is a better place we can always go find something to eat. So
Okay.
those are some of the few causes that send these children to school. Maybe violence, maybe like some children are harassed sexually by their relatives.
Sure.
So there's so many. We can't exhaust them just right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Happy is the children on streets because they found a happy person to work with them, and there you are. Well, now to you, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
for the time you've worked with the street children, I mean, you're in position to talk about a life story of a street child in Uganda. I've just mentioned the brutality, of course, when exerted onto them by security agencies. And perhaps you have something to tell us before we go to the other interesting discussion. Some problems of street children in Uganda that listeners need to know.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. One thing that listeners need to know is that a child on the street is like any other child at home. They leave home because of those reasons that Anna has spoken about. However, something that people tend to forget is that they tend to kind of stereotype them. They abuse them. They look at them as people who are kind of useless, and they really don't give them respect. Their rights, they have rights. So the fact that they're on the streets there, they have their rights, and it is just because of those push and pull factors. That's why they are there on the streets. But we want listeners out there to really accept, when you see these children on the street, please do accept them the way they are. And many times, by the way, people tend to say that children on the streets are violent. But the reason as to why sometimes they become violent, it is a defensive mechanism, because a couple of times they are being beaten up. And also what they also try to do is that now you see them begin to move with the knives or with whatever, because that is a protective kind of tool, because they know anytime I'm going to be beaten. Many times people tend to beat them. So for them also what they do is, since I'm on the street, I'm going to be stabbed, I'm going to be beaten at any time. So sometimes when you see them with those knives, they are not going to harm you, but they are doing that because they want to protect themselves in times of danger. Yes. So please let us love them. Though they understand, let us love them. They are good people. They are so friendly if you really interact with them.
Okay, they are good people, so friendly if you just give them time and you listen to them. Well, now, what are those effects of street children that Ugandans should be interested in knowing? The results of having kids on streets.
Yeah, the results of having kids on the street is they are really quite very many. One is when they grow up on the streets and they become street men, they become so dangerous. That's why for us,
Security threat.
Exactly, yes. That's why we as organizations working with children, we want to see that we really help them. As soon as they're on the streets, we work with them, we build relationship with them, and resettle them back home to their families. We don't want them to become reach that adulthood whereby they are street men, they are they are thugs and all that. So we want to get rid of them from the street. We do that through loving them, giving them care, doing street walks, and quite many other programs. Yes. So another effect that at that time may also see is that when there are so many on the streets, you find that the government may not have enough funds to take care of all of them. So I think what we need to do is that if the government can allocate some funds, many times these children are kind of left out. Sometimes there are programs that come in to support them, but then it doesn't reach down to the CSOs. So CSOs are struggling a lot, they are struggling a lot. So I think we need to work together with the government, because to address the issue together, to kind of to avoid it not to kind of be very big. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's interesting. And now I need to go to Anne Birungi Mary and talk about working with single parents. Why do you pick interest in working with the single parents, as you also maintain the other big core of solving the challenges of street children, and seeing that we have all kids from streets reunite with their families, but also